Welcome to the Craftsman Online podcast. This is a weekly program focused on the relevant topics in Freemasonry and the various aspects of the craft. Any opinions, thoughts, or viewpoints shared during this program are that of the individual and do not reflect the official position of any Grand Lodge, appendant, or concordant body from which that member may hail. I'm your host, Brother Michael Arce, co-founder of CraftsmanOnline.com. Very pleased to welcome on this podcast our guests, Right Worshipful Marino Cesarini and Worshipful Brother Jeremiah Campbell. Right Worshipful Brother Cesarini is a member of Cornucopia Lodge number 563. He's also a past District Deputy Grand Master and AGL for the Queens District and is the current chairman of the Grand Lodge Leadership and Educational Services Committee. Worshipful Brother Campbell is the past master of Jephthah Lodge number 494, and they join us on this episode as we talk about preparing pillar officers for the ensuing year. Interesting in New York State how Masonry runs. Traditionally, we do not meet from June through August, so during these summer months, the newly elected and installed officers try to make the best of this time by preparing for the upcoming year. So let's start first with our Master of the Lodge, Right Worshipful Cesarini. What are two of the most important resources that a worshipful master should possess? Right now, I would tell them either if the lodge has a copy, get a copy of the 24-inch resource guide. If they don't, get it from Grand Lodge. It's well worth the $45. If you look through it, it gives you how to do everything in that book. All right. It explains everything. When we put that together, there's samples in there, sample of letters and everything else that you have to send out or whatever. So I would say get the 24-inch resource guide. Number two, I would say pick up the etiquette booklet. I mean, like it or not, this is a little booklet that you keep in your pocket or in your apron, whatever. But read it, because like I tell a lot of people when I go to give lectures in the different lodges, everybody talks about the ritual book, and we survive our fraternities based upon the ritual. But what we forget is that you do ritualistic work only on the nights of degrees, okay, and when you open and close. Other than the nights that you're doing ritual, what governs the way you conduct yourself in a lodge? What tells you how to do what when you're in the lodge? This booklet here tells you how the altar is supposed to be draped. It tells you how you're supposed to wear your aprons. It tells you to wear your top, who's supposed to wear a top hat. Again, everybody, I don't have to wear a top hat. You go to most lodges today, the top hat is a thing of the past. And yet, what people forget is the top hat is one of your two symbols of a master's authority, the gavel and the top hat. There's only four people who can wear those items: the Grand Master, Deputy Grand Master, the District Deputy Grand Master, and the Master. And that's really important. Studying Masonic protocol, having a firm understanding of the opening and closing of the lodge, the process of actually leading a business meeting, all of this, if you have a better grasp of it, it's going to provide a better experience for the lodge and, of course, the brothers as a whole. Worshipful Brother Campbell, I'd like to get to also the mindset that the leader of a lodge should have. So as our new master is getting ready to open up his first meeting in September, what should be his mental focus?
The most important duty for the master of the lodge is to recognize that he's nothing without the brothers that are there. So if you think that a lodge runs because of you, you shouldn't be master. And I tell all incoming masters that. And they say, what do you mean? What? I worked hard. No, you can work as hard as you want, but everything has to work together. And I break it down for them. And then at the end, they're like, oh, so I give them examples. Let me ask you a question. What is a master without a secretary? I asked the incoming masters that I just went to an investiture, and most of them didn't know the answer. Some of them that were in, better lodges knew. The secretary is actively the most important brother in the lodge. So if you don't have a good relationship with the secretary, you're going to have a lot of issues. You're going to have a lot of bills that are not being sent to the treasurer. You're going to have a lot of vouchers not being done. You're going to have a lot of information between you and Grand Lodge that are not going to be getting done. And everything that really controls the lodge goes through the secretary, because no matter what's happening, he gets it first. Grand Lodge is always going to contact them, and let them know what's going on, probably before you even get it. So, the relationship and understanding that a good secretary is the foundation of any successful lodge. So you should be, if you have once they get into the chair, they're done. Like every secretary is there for like 100 years. Once you get a good one, don't ever let him go. Trap him down, tie him down, he's done. But if you are looking to be a successful master, you need a very, very good secretary. And then another thing, when you become master, is get used to saying the word thank you, because that'll take you so far. And a lot of people don't realize the grasp of that word, and they just operate and just do things, and they never really acknowledge what the other brothers are doing. Your senior and junior master of ceremonies preparing all those candidates for degrees. Why not start a meeting off and say thank you to them like I did? Because they're looked over, because they're not really doing much in active lodge. So it's like, okay, what's that? Why not thank your Tyler, for making sure that nobody gets into your lodge room if they're not supposed to be there? These are the things that a master should oversee, but not overcomplicate. Compartmentalize. Make sure that the brothers all get equal attention, but they don't all have to get it at the same time. In each situation, a brother's value is always the same. There's never a higher level than brother. So you treat everybody the same, but you make sure that they understand the appreciation on different levels. These are, when you're in a real tough spot as master, there's really not a lot of people that can help you other than key brothers in the lodge, like the secretary, your treasurer, and then the past masters. But, depending on your lodge, you may not have a lot of past masters that attend on a regular basis. But that's ultimately what you need to know, is that you really are still a self-serving brother. You may have the highest title, but if you don't treat those brothers right in an organization where nobody's getting paid, in most cases, some lodges, they do have different stipends and things like that, but it's still a volunteer organization. And men have to be appreciated, because that's the one thing that I believe in a lot of cases, when you get negative feedback, that's overlooked. And it's all about, sometimes it just takes a conversation with a master that's going east, or, somebody that's already there, to let them understand the value of it. And it goes from there. But that's ultimately what I look to do. I always look to make sure that they understood, look, I need you. And if you don't do your best job, I can't do my best job. And those things and those type of conversations is necessary. A lot of things like that goes without being said are things that ruin lodges. Just telling a brother, his value to you and how much you appreciate it goes a very, very long way. And that should never be overlooked. Everything else that comes with it, your district deputy visits, your books being right. I've seen lodges fall and people get screwed over just because a brother felt as he was shunned, or he wasn't looked at as a guy that was a veteran in the lodge that should have been asked. It's part of just managing. It's part of leadership. It's part of understanding your role. And once you do those things, it's no way you won't be a successful master.
Let me give you my experience, okay? And this happened to me in 1984. I was sitting as the senior warden. And back then we went from January to December as the year that the masters went in. It wasn't from May, it was from January to December. And we used to do a bus trip, the district, every year up to Utica in May. Our master, Leo Ashley, naturally went on the bus trip, like all the masters did with the newly raised brothers that we had up to that point. And he died of a heart attack up in Utica. Okay? Now, here I am as a senior warden. Now, the one bad thing Leo never did, and this is why I said earlier, make sure that you talk to your officers. Leo kept everything to himself. He didn't share what he had planned, what his agenda was going to be, nothing whatsoever. Now, here you are as the senior warden who now must take over the role as the acting master. And you have to know what is coming up. You're going to have your DD visit. Do you know what's required of you to have that DD visit? Do you know what books? Here again, that's in why I said before the 24-inch gauge, that's in section 3 of the 24-inch gauge, is knowing the DD's official visit, what to look for, what they're going to look for. So here again, yeah, you have the simplest job because you're just looking. But what happens if that master becomes incapacitated for some reason? You have to be prepared to take over those duties and responsibilities. So when you sit in that chair as the senior warden, no, you're not sitting there as senior warden. You should be sitting there as the master in your mind, because whatever he's doing or he's preparing to do, in your mind, you should be saying, okay, what do I do next? What do as if you were sitting in the East, because that can happen.
In my situation, I was very fortunate because the brothers, if you have a base of brothers that really back you like I did, when you're screwing up, so you fix it during the term. The senior warden for an active lodge versus a lodge that's not as active is different, but the focus should be the same. It's leadership and reflecting on what you did in the past year and what you're going to do in the next year. But primary focus should be to protect that worshipful master. For instance, if something comes up, it's your job to keep harmony. So if two brothers are arguing, it doesn't need to get to the worshipful master. You're the senior warden. Take care of it, dude. Like, he has other stuff going on. It's so many things he has to be responsible for. Your job should be able to maintain the harmony of the lodge. So that was my focus when I went to the chair, because it was already taught to me through, the degrees and, advice from other brothers. Listen, harmony's on you this year. You're the senior warden. Sending out the gifts, anything going on that you don't want the worshipful master to really have to pay attention to, that should be your job. You should be able to, in other words, take care of the lesser things to make sure that you give that glory to the, worshipful master in his chair, and he doesn't have to worry about, two guys having a quarrel. Typically what will happen every year, there's never going to be a year that goes by in masonry where everything is like clean cut. There's always going to be a hassle. There's going to be a disagreement. If you show that confidence to the worshipful master that you can handle that, that shows your current junior warden what he's supposed to be doing. And then it keeps the line proper with the way that the chairs go. If you're like an absentee senior warden where people are getting out of hand and nobody's addressing it, and then now the worshipful master has to call a meeting, and then now it looks like he's doing that role as well, it can really be a deterrent for brothers to, continue to come down the lodge. So when I was senior warden, we had quarrels and disagreements. I would arrange a meeting. All right, you two guys or you three guys, I need you guys to meet me 30 minutes before collation. Let's talk about it. And that's how we did it. Most of the things that happened never even got to the worshipful master. So that made the lodge a lot more fruitful because you completed your role. That's ultimately what it is. Keep the harmony and protect the worshipful master. And as long as you do that, everybody in the lodge will see that you're doing it. You don't have to say, oh yeah, you remember I did this, I did that. They'll see the harmony. They'll see the brothers come in. They'll see that everybody at collation will sit with anyone. There's no cliques. There's nothing going on like that. And your lodge will continue to grow because everybody feels like they're a brother, like there's no higher level. So that's ultimately what your focus should be as senior warden, in my opinion.
That is the most solid advice I have heard. The term for the senior warden is that they are the pillar of strength. And I think both of those stories are fascinating. Let's turn to our beauty here in the South, the junior warden. Worshipful Brother Campbell, what advice do you have for our junior warden?
Well, you need to know how to use a kitchen. It's sort of like this. Every step of the way as you get closer to the chair of master, you have to prove yourself to the brothers in each chair. Now, the junior warden's job, a lot of lodges that don't typically have recurring membership are lodges that don't really cook within the lodge. So, having heroes is cool if you're having, an event, maybe a picnic, outside or something like that. But inside of the lodge, when you're actively a junior warden, the brothers look to you to be able to come down to the lodge, have a nice meal, and be able to, talk to your brothers and share that camaraderie. When you have a lot of outside meals, it tends to lower the amount of people that want to come down because they're like, I can do this anywhere. I can get a slice of pizza anywhere. I can go get a hero anywhere. I actually had a brother that's on Broadway that visited my lodge and said to me, nothing says, F you than a 4-foot hero, or a 6-foot hero. And I always kept that with me when I became junior warden. It's like, I gotta cook. Depending on lodges though, some lodges don't have a kitchen. I understand that. But one of the things that I've seen since being a part of Jephthah is brothers actually cook at home and bring it in tinfoil and, just distribute it that way. It just adds more love to it when it's made from a brother, in my opinion. So just knowing how to cook is very, very important. Being able to understand, part of your obligation and watching people not overuse alcohol and stuff like that, intemperance or excess, things like that. But the major focus, because most of the brothers and the people that come to the lodge will know how to handle themselves. I think the primary focus is your brother's stomach, because nothing makes a man more angry than being hungry, in my opinion. You come down to the lodge and the meal is good, you're going to be, all of a sudden, everything is better. If it's not good, you might be a little antsy that day, just getting home from work. Oh, I got to go down to the lodge and this guy is ordering a 4-foot hero, whatever again. It definitely messes with the mental. So I would focus on the kitchen and just figuring out how you can make some homely meals that comes from you, because the brothers feel that. And I remember brothers coming to me and telling me when I was junior warden, thank you for that meal. I really, I had a rough day at work and it just hit the spot, stuff like that.
It's interesting that you talk about preparing the meals. We had a past district deputy grandmaster in the old 17th, and I agreed with his mindset that lodges should be preparing dinner at least once a year. We should be cooking and, being in the lodge if possible for that to happen. One of the things that I like to do is I began theming my dinners based on the program or the presentation or the degree or whatever was going on. So we had a point within a circle discussion one night. So I made point within a circle flatbreads. If we had a EA night or a fellow craft night, I would go ask, the candidates, the brothers that were going through those degrees, get some menu ideas of what they liked and try to build a special dinner around that. And I can also echo the point that you made about the appreciation or joy that comes. I've had brothers that come up afterwards, and this could be just a simple, homemade meatball and spaghetti night, and they'll just be thankful that you took the time out of your day to make a meal for them that night. And guys really do appreciate that. As a fan of cooking and getting in the kitchen and finding joy there, what are some of the dishes that you made for your lodge that made meetings special?
I'm pretty good in the kitchen, so I was just excited to be able to just show, my culinary arts and to be able to give them a different type of menu. I branched out. I collaborated with other brothers that were chefs, pineapple chicken for Hawaiian t-shirt night. We made oxtail and rice and peas, West Indian meals. We did a lot of different things because what happened is I had a lot of older brothers that gave me insight before I got elected. And they were always just saying, look, it's all about changing the times that we're in right now. A lot of things that were going on Masonically has been stale. People, it's the same thing. You go to a lodge, it's the same thing. What can we do that's different? And that's what our lodge focuses on. What can we do that nobody else is doing? Can we make a brother want to come back just for one thing that we're doing? Because if it's nothing new or nothing spectacular, what really holds a brother's interest? Especially, new brothers. We got EAs that come in every single year. What is our lodge doing that can make sure that, I'll put that on my calendar to make sure I make that state of communication. And it's our stomachs. Men are as we get older, I learned this as I got older. A good meal can make you so less angry. It's unbelievable. And I didn't really, grasp that until I got it from, my older brethren. They were telling me, look, Jeremiah, you got to make this meal excellent. You made that last meal really good. They started to look forward to the meal. So what I was thinking was I have to make sure that part of what they're coming into the lodge for is satisfied. I don't want my brothers to feel like they're leaving here and they didn't get everything that I could offer. And that's what was taught to me. And I continue to pass it down to my other junior wardens that came in, and they've had success. Because you can't be concerned about, yourself at all when you're junior warden. It's a completely thankless and selfless, like it's a job you have to do. You're working for the brothers, and you have to have that mindset. So if something isn't right, you have to make it right. And that was my focus, just making sure the brothers knew that part of the lodge, when they come down and it's time for a collation, you're going to have an unbelievable meal. That was my primary focus. And that's what I set forward to do. And I completed that successfully.
Right Worshipful Cesarini has traveled all across New York State over the years, giving presentations to lodges on etiquette and protocol. Worshipful Brother Campbell, I'm interested in hearing your opinions on ritual as the younger person in our conversation this evening. What has been your experience on the importance of ritual, especially when it comes to the new members of your lodge?
All right. So ritual in our lodge is what made the lodge grow as vastly as it has. Ritual is very important because that's what distinguished Masonry from every other fraternity. The only thing that I can really say about ritual is that if you accept it and it's taught the right way, it will make good men better, which is what is one of the core values of Masonry. If you bring in an EA and they go through the degree, their degree, obviously most of it is blindfolded, and they only hear things. They don't really know what's going on. If you don't explain that and what the ritual actually means, I believe your lodge has failed. That EA and everyone in the lodge. Because what I've seen, and like I said, going through different lodges and seeing stuff done, most lodges that I've been to since I've been traveling, they don't really have a program after a brother becomes an EA or a fellow craft and things like that. And then they wonder why, okay, I'm not retaining any type of membership. Because they don't understand. You're saying Old English and a bunch of gibberish that these guys have never in their lives ever heard, and it's not explained. So Jephthah, in my opinion, has grown because that degree is explained a week later. Whether it's the senior deacon that does it or the ritual director, or even if it's the worshipful master, it's explained and questions are answered. So now you break it down to our level, to modern society. And those words that would otherwise not be understood are understood now. So the basis of what Masonry is and why I believe that it will continue to stand is because that's what differentiates it from any other fraternity. Our ritual, no matter where you go in the world, we've had brothers from New Zealand come down, from England, different lodges. We had a Prince Hall lodge come down to one of our recent last meetings. The ritual is all the same. And if you understand it, that's what keeps us at a common ground of being a brother. But if you run into an EA, just randomly, if you go out of your house, tonight and, you meet a Mason, you see a ring and you talk to him, you can tell whether or not their lodge is instilling ritual. Not even by the grip. Most of the brothers that I've met outside, we don't even shake with a grip on the outside. We just know that we're traveling men and we'll start to talk and then certain key values will come up and you see that they understand it and you see that type of glow and you're like, okay, I'm comfortable with this guy. He's a brother. But then you have other guys that just go through it and the lodge is like, all right, you're done. Okay, that's it. And they don't truly understand it. So if you don't truly understand it, how can you actually appreciate it?
Well, we tend to forget, and I've seen this more and more, and it's unfortunate, we tend to forget that the brothers that we bring in really thrive on wanting to learn, but we don't seem to afford them the opportunities to do that, whether it's in the lodge or, other venues that we could give them. They want to learn, but we have to do it in such a way. I've always said that interaction between brothers is perhaps the best way of learning anything, only because it makes them feel comfortable now talking to you directly and asking that question, because now they don't feel that something is stupid. They don't feel that they're going to be ridiculed or anything. So I think it's important that anything that we do, whether it be done on Zoom like this here, where you can interact with the individual, is going to help. And this is what they want. Believe it or not, they really want to learn. We have to give them that opportunity.
That's the primary reason why Jephthah has grown the way it has, because we've taken something that's so historically different and made it modernized. and broken it down to the level of anyone. We have active members that are in their high 80s. We have a brother that just turned 79 that was made a Mason 3 years ago, and he brought his son in. And he's trying to be actively in chairs. He's traveled through different places in New York City, and he never got the attention that he got when he came to Jephthah. You know, he didn't understand something. Jeremiah, can you explain this? And he loved that it didn't matter if he made a mistake, because you're a brother. If you make a mistake on a word, okay, it doesn't matter. Well, what is this about? Why are we worried about you getting every word right? What does it mean to him? Did he get what it is? That's what my focus is. And because of that, it's easy to see what, you know, the kind of brothers you're bringing in, because some guys will just be naturals. You can memorize anything if you put your heart into it and you focus on it, but do you accept it? And that's what the brothers try to instill. I know I did that. That was one of the primary focuses of myself, because that's what I came up in. I wanted it to be heavy. So my year as master, we made sure it wasn't like we extended the program, but I wanted it instilled that when we had a degree, I wanted to go and talk to the brothers afterwards. You know, after my ritual director or my senior deacon did something, I wanted to see where they were with it. And they're glowing because everything was explained to them in a fashion to where, oh, I was blindfolded. That happened. Oh, this happened. And it makes it work. You know, you bring them back the week later with no blindfold and just show them what happened. And it's amazing for them because they feel like they're walking around in a place they don't know where they are because you're doing preambulations. And then you bring them back without a blindfold. So that's more of light in masonry that the ritual should show. And I think that if more lodges explained after an actual degree, that their lodge would grow by default, because you'll yearn for more information and more understanding in that regard.
This has been the Craftsman Online Podcast. Great advice tonight, and much thanks to our guests this week, Right Worshipful Marino Cesarini and Worshipful Brother Jeremiah Campbell. If Masonic education is important to you, you can get more light on our website. That's craftsmanonline.com. A reminder that new episodes of the Craftsman Online Podcast are available for download every Monday morning. Until next time, let peace and harmony prevail.